Sustainable development is hard to achieve under the events of conflicts, weak institution, and limited access to justice, as peace, stability, and effective governance based on rule of law are some of its primary requirements. Thus, SDG 16 is dedicated to peace, justice, and strong institution, with its mission statement being promote peaceful and inclusive society for sustainable development, provide access to justice for all, and build effective, accountable, and inclusive institutions at all levels. This goal has identified 10 outcome targets and 2 means of achieving these targets. People's life can be better when under an efficient responsive government where they are included in the decision making that affect their lives and have equal access to fair institutions that provide services and administer justice, thereby promoting peace, security, and prosperity. The facts and figures on different aspects like weak institutions affected by corruption under different parliaments, conflicts and violences which include war that leads to mass casualties, deaths and displacement of people, violence against children, legal identity of citizens, etc. are pretty shocking, which emphasize the need for an immediate focus on this goal. This is reflected as governance for peaceful, just and inclusive society is one of the 6 cross-cutting approaches to development by UNDP called as a signature solution, which aims to fulfill the aims of strategic plan with multidimensionality and complexity that the 2030 agenda demands. The conditions in India is no better with issues like an overburdened judiciary. Our project was on SDG 16 with a particular focus on the Sundargarh district of Odisha, where we emphasize specific significant targets of SDG 16 concerning the district and try to come up with a proposal that can contribute to achieve this goal.
LWE is a group of people use violence to fulfill their demands. Out of total 30 districts in Odisha, altogether 10 districts are now affected by the LWE. The 10 LWE affected districts are Koraput, Malkangiri, Raigada, Bargarh, Balangir, Navrangpur, Kalahandi, Nuapada, Kandhamal and Sundargarh. Large area of Sundargarh are affected by Maoism. Some of the causes of left-wing extremism are unemployment and social insecurity among poor and disadvantaged communities, poor infrastructural facility, improper execution of government schemes, lack of communication facilities, overexploitation by landlord or sahukar, ineffective implementation of the public distribution system, etc. The central theme of Maoist ideology is violence. The Maoist insurgency doctrine glorifies violence as the primary means to overwhelm the existing socio-economic and political structures by killing lower level of government officials, police personnel of the local police station, the worker of mainstream political parties and the people's representative of the Panchayat Raj system. They create terror among those people and fulfill their demands, and also they brainwash people so that more people can come to their group and their group becomes more powerful.
So first, we would like to propose a scheme for proper data collection in Sundargarh. This is important for identifying and segregating people's grievances based on which grievance redressal can occur. State representatives keep denying the issues arising at the root level because there is no accurate data and thus no solutions are ever suggested. The state government should have set up NGOs that can carry out regular surveys, different observation methods, conduct interviews and case studies. Our next proposal addresses the denial of traditional rights to tribals, forcing them to go to Maoists and follow their policy of opposing development projects needed for overall economic development. The provisions of the Panchayat Act 1996 or PISA Act ensure self-governance by providing funds and sanctions. However, funds meant for mining activities are being diverted towards urban projects, like building of a stadium in recent times. The fifth schedule of the Indian Constitution deals with the administration and control of scheduled areas and scheduled tribes residing in any state other than the states of Assam, Meghalaya, Tripura and Mizoram. Thus, we see that proper laws for upliftment do exist, but the Indian state has been blatantly flouting these over the last 60 years. What the fifth schedule does is that it makes the governor the overall supervisor of tribal rights and interests. He is enjoined to make an annual report to the president with recommendations regarding development, tribals' living conditions and governance in these areas. Then the president places this report before the parliament and issues whatever directives are necessary. However, governors lack any motivation for this task, or most are just unaware. So, no such single document has gone out to the state in 60 years. So, what we can do is we can ensure proper representation of the local community in the governing bodies because they understand the sensitivity and complexity of the issues and they can create a connect with the masses. Highly motivated individuals should be encouraged to work for their community instead of looking for opportunities elsewhere. We can achieve the same through the introduction of scholarships and reservations. Lastly, it is crucial that we accurately identify the nature of the threat the Maoists pose in each affected area. Some of the types of violence commonly seen are given on the left hand side with the appropriate way of treating it on the right hand pane. This is important because any overreaction and underreaction should be avoided as that would prove no use or even worse counterproductive.
For over a decade, the villages near the Kulda open cast mine in Odisha's Hemgiri block in the Sundargarh district have been fighting coal pollution. In February, an application was filed in the Odisha High Court against the central and state government and the Mahanadi Coalfields Limited, a subsidiary of Coal India, that the coal transport passing by Ratanpur and 25 villages along a 30-kilometer stretch to Chhattisgarh violated the environmental clearance for the mine, which stipulated that the coal transported by road shall be carried out by covered conveyors with effective control measures. The court ordered the collector to take necessary action. Some measures such as covering the vehicles, sprinkling water to suppress the suspended particles, and raising the school compound walls were ordered by him. The villagers reported that the restrictions had been violated and began an agitation later. But all the protests were futile. The coal mine continued to expand. All these directives and control measures failed mainly due to the administrative apathy. As a solution to the above issue, particle detectors and various other machines that could monitor air quality could be established near the coal mine and in the above villages. These machines, without any doubt, can test and report the suspended particles, so that any harmful levels detected must affect to the closure of mines. Odisha has emerged as the second top state in the country in human trafficking for 2 consecutive years. As many as 43,000 girls have been trafficked from Sundargarh district in a decade. The girls are usually lured out of the state by promising them employment and income. Social activists are horrified by the magnitude of the crime and suggest lack of planning as the main issue in the case. Police have been trying to work with other organizations to nab the culprits. To resolve this issue, there must be a particular employment app or cell which is authentic so that no one depends on any other person. People must be educated about such arrangements so that they do not randomly believe in a stranger in search of an income.
Giving the people of Sundargarh information. Basically speaking, educating them is the best way to bring them towards justice. Basic education and schooling must be made available to the tribal children of Sundargarh. They have the right to know and learn about their rights. But we know since Sundargarh is a forest area, they have very little transportation and it is really hard for the students to reach their schools. But as a new policy for the government, they can bring the students to the school with school buses, so they can increase the number of school buses to bring the students to the school, and they can make the schools more attractive, like giving nutrition supplies to the students. As we know, the tribal children are mostly malnourished. As we know, Sundargarh is a scheduled area. In such areas, land cannot be transferred to the non-tribals. But recently, the Supreme Court denied a petition to exclude Sundargarh from the Odisha Municipal Act. Now, when this act comes into being in Sundargarh, the non-tribals can buy and use land for their use. Like the corporate houses can use Sundargarh to turn it into a municipality or township. Now, that will mean an end to their tradition and cultures. So, the judiciary must take care or ensure that the traditional rights are preserved when such new laws are enforced.
Though specific solutions were suggested for each problem, one most significant solution to all the problem is the conscientiousness of the authorities. All the current policies would be sufficient enough to run the country in an efficient way if the government officials were true to their jobs without any corruption or bias. These qualities are intrinsic. The change must be from inside the person. So all public employees must pledge to work in a righteous way without any negligence in their duty to provide justice to the citizens.
Sixteen Adivasi activists and leaders were reportedly arrested for protesting against the expansion of the Kulda mines on February 14, 2021. Land acquisition and mistrust between the miners and neighboring areas has been a constant issue in interior parts of Sundargarh as miners try to exploit the local vulnerable tribes and displace them without proper compensation. This is just an instance of the various facets in which the locals suffer attack on their humanitarian rights. According to the provisions of the Panchayats, extension to the Scheduled Areas Act 1996, Act number 40 of 1996, the Gram Sabha or the Panchayats at appropriate level need to be consulted before making the acquisition of land in the scheduled areas for development projects and before resettling or rehabilitating people affected by such projects in the scheduled areas. Crisis arises when the case of sensitization enters, as most of the locals are unaware of the powers they possess. Hence, we propose developing legal schools for the tribals where they are sensitized about the rights and powers they possess as part of the scheduled panchayat system. This could be done in collaboration with primary schools and Anganwadi centers. The system could be developed where dedicated hours could be fixed during which the village elders are educated about their rights and how to go about to attain them. Difficulties that might arise while implementation: making the schools approachable for the locals, educating the locals why they need to learn about the rights they possess, a way out, including the provisions as part of local awareness drives along with the awareness campaigns related to other policies. Ensuring that the local elders know about these drives and why they are conducted is crucial for this project. Preparing impromptu courthouses in such facilities so as to introduce them to the environment of fighting for their rights. In recent times, a demand for AIMS Center has been getting momentum for last many months in Sundargarh district. The question that arises here is, in a district that has a crippled primary healthcare system, how feasible does the idea of establishment of an AIMS sound? In the interior parts, news headlines regarding deaths caused by lack of minimal healthcare facilities are common, keeping in mind that many of these incidents never see the light of the day. Big mining corporations make a million promises regarding this issue, but the facilities they establish are more often used by the populace that belong to the highest rate of the society. Here attached is a railway map of Sundargarh. Leaving the areas that belong to the urban regions of Raurkela aside, there is clear indication that the rail track density across the length of Sundargarh district is far too low compared to the regions they cater to. In such conditions, accessibility of higher healthcare facilities for the people becomes an impossibility. Again, in the road map, it can be seen that even if the road web is more accessible, it appears that large tracts of the district still don't enjoy enough accessibility, which again impedes people from accessing better healthcare facilities. The basic requirement in such cases is to increase accessibility of healthcare facilities for the interior parts. Keeping such situations in mind, we propose construction of dedicated medical villages which could act as local serving points across 5 to 10 villages. Rather than having non-functional primary healthcare centers across all small and big villages, a local hub for primary healthcare, education and employment could be developed so as the villages in remote areas could use these facilities. Better facilities with proper accommodation for doctors and teachers could be developed, since the most common reason as claimed by such professionals for not opting remote areas has always been lack in proper transportation and accommodation.